Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. This time I want to talk about crushing the imposter syndrome and how to become a professional in just about anything. Please excuse the cold. I'm getting over it, getting over the holiday cold. My new son was born, so super excited. Just been sort of very nasally, and I really apologize about that. So let's talk about crushing the imposter syndrome. And for those of you who don't know what the imposter syndrome is, it's something that you might be going through yourself. It is when you're going into something, let's say it's a new job, a new project that you're working on, giving a talk or something like that in front of an audience for the first time, and you just don't feel like you know what you're doing. You just you don't feel it internally to say like, I'm a true professional at this. I really understand this knowledge. And then you start to have all these fears, start waterfall effect inside your mind to say, you're not the one, Matt. You're not the one to do this job. You're not the one to speak in front of this audience. I remember when I first started public speaking at WordCamps, and I would set up my presentations with the first few slides in the beginning to sort of crack a joke to say that I wasn't a good public speaker. And all of that was really my internal imposter syndrome kicking in and saying, look, you're vulnerable. You probably feel like you shouldn't be talking to all of these people on this given subject. So crack a joke and say that you're not good, sort of setting them at ease that what they're about to see might not be that good. Recently, Sarah Dunn, somebody that I've been following for a little while online, especially now her YouTube channel, now she's drilling down on what she really wants to focus on in the year 2018. And she put out a video recently that said, and where she said that she feels like the imposter syndrome's kicking in. She's getting into SEO. She knows all the technical stuff of SEO, but maybe she's just feeling a little bit afraid to put that information out there. Why, you ask? Because the online marketing space, the development space, the design space, people are harsh, and I totally get it. People rip into me about these videos. People rip into me about other podcasts and stuff, things that I do about speaking too fast or too low or too slow. Like nobody's ever happy, and you're always sort of just battling internally with what kind of criticism am I going to get today? But she's afraid that if she starts talking about SEO because she's sort of new in it, or at least publicly talking about it, that people are going to look at her and like, you're not a professional. And that's a big weight to carry when you're launching your business. To that I say, to heck with them. And I've done a previous video on web design in the same sort of fashion where people criticize the way you build a website, but at the end of the day, it's the customer who's paying you, not the person who's criticizing you on the other end of the Twitter sphere. It's about the person who values your work, who's actually cutting you a check, who's paying your bills and supporting your business and creating a life that you're looking for. So to heck with all the people who are going to criticize you. The best way to become a professional is to actually care. And when you start to think about, maybe I have some imposter syndrome, that's step one of caring. You actually care that you want to do good work, that you don't get criticized. And I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. And versus the person who just wants to make a quick buck and they're just going to do it for the money. That's what we don't want. And those people, they're probably not asking themselves, are they an imposter? They know they are, and they just don't really care about it at that point. See, to me, this whole web industry thing is not something that's set in stone. It's only a few decades old at most in terms of consumer and internet marketing and products online and that kind of thing. And it's not building cars, which they've been doing for over 100 years now. It's just something that isn't defined yet. And I really see this stuff as a practice, right? As a doctor or as a lawyer, they're in a practice. And which, to me anyway, defines it as they're continuously practicing the art of law, the art of medicine. And I feel like we're doing the same thing because technology changes so fast, changes a heck of a lot faster than the human body. The online space there's so much stuff out there. Being a professional means you have to keep up with all of it. And if I were to give somebody the advice, the number one advice for me is sticking to one or two things that you're really good at. And that doesn't mean you can't offer more in the future. But I think if you're just kickstarting your business online right now, like I know Sarah is, focus on one or two areas so you're not doing too much and spreading yourself too thin. And I know that's super cliche. We all hear that, focus down, be great at one thing, not good at many things. And I totally get it. And it's advice that I wish I had taken early on too. But if you can really focus in on one or two things that you're great at, and I would even argue that you actually really enjoy doing if you can. And you can test that by saying, which emails don't you like getting from clients now? Is it when they ask you to make a logo or adjust some code on their website or give them marketing advice? What are those things that make you go, oh God, I don't even want to open up my email? But what are the things that you don't mind answering on a Sunday afternoon when you're out with the family that you can just fire off some great answers for. Like for me, it's like consulting and feedback and that kind of thing. I really enjoy stuff like that. But if you're asking me to change lines of code on your website, I don't even want to. I'll throw my phone. I don't even want to talk about it. All of this stuff, right? If you could focus in on one or two things, repetition is the mother of all learning. And if you can get really good at doing one or two different products and services for your customers over and over again, you quickly become a professional in that field. And people relate you to your products and services as that professional. And that's really what you want in this space. All of this is leading up to how you build confidence and crush the imposter syndrome inside you. One thing that I do want to mention is if you don't have to focus on one or two things for your entire professional career or your business life cycle. It doesn't have to be for a year. It doesn't have to be for 6 months. You can begin to go into other avenues, but once you find a great process, or you've really defined those one or two roles that you're really good at, then you move on to start branching out. In the meantime, my advice is to either partner up with somebody who's really good at, let's say design or development, that kind of thing, and maybe you're trying to do the SEO and marketing side and you don't want to focus on those areas. Try to find somebody to partner with or outsource it. Or go through like a referral network, right? Build up your own referral network that you can give to your clients. But it's so important that you're transparent to your client that you don't do a specific task, logo design, front-end design, that kind of thing, because you want to set the expectation that you're a professional in the products and services that you're offering. Okay, now let's get into the meat and potatoes of this discussion, and that is building up that confidence and how you build up that confidence in the steps I take mentally, sometimes physically, to prepare myself to become the professional and feel confident that I am the professional. A quick little story for those who are new here or haven't heard the story before. I used to sell General Motors cars, Chevrolets, Cadillacs, GMCs, that kind of thing, Pontiacs, way back in the early 2000s when no one was looking at Chevys and Cadillacs. Cadillacs were laughed at, amongst the luxury vehicles. They were these big, boaty vehicles that only the old people bought. They weren't stylish like a BMW or Mercedes or an Audi back then. The advice that I'm about to give you right now, or I have mentioned before about creating the one or two core services that you're great at, and really carrying that ball with you into the game, is the same thing I used to do with General Motors cars. I know everybody thinks of salespeople as slimy and shifty and that kind of thing and sort of, super influential. I just looked at what we had with General Motors vehicles and was just confident in that product line for the features that it had. I knew we would lose to BMW and Mercedes when I was selling a Cadillac, but I had to just focus on the things that were really good. Safety, comfort, ride comfort, warranty, that kind of thing back then. The General Motors brand and our service department, like sort of just finding all the things that were really, really strong. I knew I didn't have to convince anybody, and I felt really good of pitching it to a customer. I wasn't trying to convince them that a Cadillac DTS was better than a BMW 5 Series. It wasn't even possible. People would just laugh at me if I tried to do that. But if I flipped the conversation on the value and the price and our service, that kind of thing, it really changed things up. That's really where I built a lot of confidence in becoming the professional with just a few items that I had to play with. And I felt confident when I was going into a sales conversation. So I hope some of these tips sort of you can recycle into that same way for your stuff. So step number one, focusing on one or two core items. We've talked about this before, but you really have to look at it as your value. This is the ball that you're bringing to the game. And what I like about the online space and internet marketing and products and all this stuff is there is no definition on how you have to do things. It is a game. You can just pick up your ball, your rock, the things that you're really good at, and bring that to show up and to compete with other people. And I'm a true believer that in the future, there's going to be so many products that the only product that another company can't take away from you. I should say there's so much product competition that the only thing that people can't take away from you is yourself, is your personality. And we're really going to be competing on that level in the future. These one or two services that you're picking, you have to really love this stuff. These are the two things that you're really great at. And if that's SEO and content writing, you really have to feel passionate about that and know that you are the best for what you can offer your customers. If you don't find that confidence in the one or two things that you picked, you really have to find something else. Don't try to force it, because if you can't get this one down, all of the rest of the items I'm about to talk about are just going to fall to the wayside. The next thing is people think, okay, I've got my one or two things, but I don't know how to position it. I don't know what to talk about. I'm afraid to talk about things. You really need to spend some time looking in the product aisles of like CVS or Target and look at soaps and toothpastes and dishwasher fluid, things like that, and look at the line items that these marketers, these great marketers, put on these big brands. Apple does this really great, right? When they talk about their displays, they talk about the 16.9 million pixels in this LED, super LED liquid display, right? These are all just common, right, commodities to a degree, and they're sort of just highlighting all of these features and spinning them in different ways and just throwing little twists on things like, turbo memory, right? It's a big deal, right? It's just fast. That's all it is. These are things that you can do with your own products and services. You can tell people that you give out a warranty for your work, and you're just building in maybe like 30 days, 30-day warranty with your work where you go back and make edits, but you're really building that into the price. You're accounting for that overhead ahead of time, but people look at that and they go, wow, this woman has a warranty with her work. That guy down the street, he said I had to pay for something immediately. So these are little wins that you can put into place, which are just highlighting all of the features, benefits, and the values that you bring. Write everything out, as silly as it sounds. When you say on-page optimization, keywords, that kind of thing, it sounds like, yeah, no duh. Like, I know this stuff. But the person who's buying it doesn't know it. And even if you stack it up against somebody who is selling it to them, they might not be listing it either. So you're going to win on all areas if you can just sort of talk about your products and services at many, many angles, even the boring stuff. Try to make it fun, and that's how you win. Tip number 3, define why this is yours and why no one else can replicate what you're doing. And I mentioned this earlier in the video that I think that in the future, with so much competition out there, people are really going to be buying on the personality of the person, the longevity of their business, that kind of thing, the portfolio that they've built. But a lot of that's going to come because they like doing business with you. And you should really define that with your customers, because you're never going to feel confident in a scenario where you feel like you're not the right fit. That is not to say that you shouldn't swing for the fences and go into those bigger projects, because really, those people are actually a lot easier to work with most of the time than the person who doesn't have the budget. But you're finding the confidence in saying, like, I'm building it my way, and don't veer away from that. It's the same thing of like not focusing on more than 3 products at a time. Focus in on why you're really good at. So when they say, well, can you do a little bit of logo design for us? No. Well, the last person who did on-page optimization, they did it with this plugin. Can you use that plugin? No, this is the way I do it. I'm the professional here, and this is my way of doing things, but it's part of the value that I'm delivering to you as well. Tip number 4, keep repeating this. This is something that you have to just keep repeating to get better at. So you're always sort of working on your 1 or 2 core products, defining those better, getting better marketing out there for them, and you're doing that at every turn. So you're either doing it on some downtime where you're actually mentally and physically working on it, or you're doing it as you're selling the product to somebody. You learn a lot when people say no. Why did you say no to my contract? Why did you say no to my proposal? Can you tell me why? Who did you pick instead and why? Getting that kind of information is crucial, but you're always identifying things that didn't go right in that last project, things you could have done better. How could you have charged more money? But the idea is you keep doing this stuff on repeat, and that's how you start to keep building up that portfolio of experience and customers, and that's what keeps people coming back to you. Tip number 5, create a feedback machine. This is super crucial. This is something that I love doing, and I think everybody needs to do a lot more of it, is getting that feedback from customers, from non-customers, from colleagues, from people passing by. Understanding how people define your product and your services is super important. When they look at your website, do they get it? When they look at your products, do they understand it? Does the price fit the value that they're getting? And you're asking customers all along the way. Good customers coming in that have signed and said, yes, what did you think about the project? Were you happy? Were you satisfied? That kind of thing. And people who have said, no, why did you leave me? Who did you choose? That kind of, and that kind of information. Again, crucial to making these improvements, and putting all of this stuff again on repeat is the best thing that you can do. to crush those imposter syndromes and feel like the professional that you are going into building your business. All right, that's it, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it all made sense. I hope it helps some of you out there who are either building a new business or just getting started with something you've been maybe doing for a while, actually, and you're sort of rebooting it or just really starting to think, boy, for 2018, I want to focus down on these one or two things. I know that's something that's deep in my mind. It's tough as an entrepreneur to sort of focus on one or two things and not chase the shiny objects. I totally get it, but very, very important to your success. Speaking of feedback, as I mentioned in step 5, userfeedbackvideos.com is where I do recorded feedback videos, sort of like this. I do some screencasts, look at your website, look at your products, give you that feedback. And if that's of interest to you, it's userfeedbackvideos.com. Check that out. As always, subscribe, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you like stuff like this, and join the email list, themattreport.com/subscribe. We'll see you in the next video.